Bobby Marks is a guy that he's known on Knicks on Twitter as a capologist, the Twitter capologist. But he was an executive for the Nets. They won they went to the championship twice in the early 2000s, and he eventually went up higher into their in their pecking order, their chain of command. But he's also he breaks down a bunch of teams, and he breaks down a bunch of teams cap spaces. And in this clip, he breaks down the Knicks cap space.
And do another one of these trade guide videos, and we are going to do one. Certainly did the Anunoby deal back in December on the 30th. Kind of got their business in order right there. Played extremely well. Still kind of outside that top 4, but creeping towards there. And when we look at New York, in a really interesting position, because and I wrote it. It's basically my the opening line is that outside of Oklahoma City, there is no playoff team. Now it's playoff team, right? We're not talking about maybe Utah was kind of a fringe team. There's no playoff team that's positioned better than the Knicks at the deadline here, as far as what they have available. And I think there's, certainly positioned going into the future here. I think when you look at it, certainly we know about their draft assets as far as the ability to trade up to 8 first-round picks. I believe that's 3rd or 4th highest behind Oklahoma City, Utah, San Antonio, Brooklyn's in that mix too. 4 of your own. You have the ability to trade the Dallas first, that's top 10 protected. You have a Milwaukee first in 2025 if it's 5-30. And then you have these 2 protected picks from Detroit and the Wizards. I call them kind of 50 cents on the dollar, because who knows if they're going to be conveyed, because it basically has years of protection layered on there. Those eventually turn into a couple seconds for each deal here. So from a draft equity standpoint, you are stacked. The Anunoby trade only cost you that Detroit second that you had, and you were able to keep what you have. I would say this about the Knicks. If you want to go out and make it, there's no A-level all-star available right now. But if you want to go out and get DeJounte Murray, you can go out and do it. If you want to go out and get Zach LaVine, you can go out and do it. If you want to go out and get that next, that guy, you can go out and do it. Now, the cost is associated with it, and there's going to be somebody else available this upcoming summer. If we said, you know what, you're going to lose all 8 first-round picks on February 8th, you got to go out and do it, they would be as positioned better than any team out there to go out and do a deal here. The big thing for me to watch is going to be the Fournier contract. And you're probably saying, wait a minute, guy that doesn't play, why are we watching Evan Fournier? It's because he's got an $18 million contract this year, $18 million plus, $19 million team option next year. And New York's in this kind of little bit of this window where the Fournier contract is their biggest trade asset on their roster. Certainly you could put Quentin Grimes, but as far as from a top level guy, as far as salary wise, because when you look at this roster, New York is one of 7 teams that do not have a player earning more than $30 million. And when you do the process of elimination, and you're taking Brunson off the table, of course, and Julius Randle, and then Anunoby, the Fournier piece is the biggest one here. And New York has this decision to make where, okay, if we don't trade Fournier, now we go into the offseason. You can't trade him because it's a team option unless you exercise it and guarantee his full $19 million salary. And the only way you're doing that is with the intent that you're going to move him down the road. On the other end, if you decline it, okay, Fournier is on your roster past February 8th. You decline that option. Then what happens if that marquee guy becomes available? You don't have the contracts to go out and get that $35 million player, that $36 million player, that $49 million player, unless it's going to be, of course, Randall as part of the deal, and then Robinson, and then you start basically taking away your roster, your core guys, similar to what New York what had to do in the Donovan Mitchell trade back in the 2022 offseason. So the Fournier piece is your big trade asset as far as where you are at the deadline. I've joked all along that if he's on the roster, I could certainly see him being back because the availability to move him in a deal. Like, I would be stunned if Evan Fournier is not if Evan Fournier is on the roster and all of a sudden he wants to do a buyout and go sign with someone else. That is not the smart thing to do here. The other thing that you have to be careful with, if you're the Knicks, and they have done a tremendous job of stacking their books, the Brunson contract that descends, certainly where Randall is, Anunoby where he is right now, and that's going to get expensive. But everybody else, Robinson, and then you get DiVincenzo, and you've got a bunch of these younger players. Certainly Quentin Grimes is a name to keep an eye on. Josh Hart is on their books. He can't be traded. But they've done a tremendous job of stacking their contracts and lining it up and how this new CBA is. If you go out and do a Fournier trade, okay, and you're taking back, I'm just throwing out names, Terry Rozier or DeJounte Murray, or a player that has money left and that is going a $20 million guy and goes into next year, the concern now comes to your finances. You figure Anunoby opts out of his contract. You basically double that. So let's say he's in that $35, $36 million range. Maybe get him less. I don't know. And then if you want to bring back Hartenstein, who's a free agent, and you can only pay him up around $13 million because he's an early bird player, the money starts to add up here. And now all of a sudden you are in a great position. Now you're a luxury tax team because where their money is right now, and we'll pull it up here. We'll go through it real quick. You've got for next year, hang tight with me here, kids.
It's never been easier to get started with QuickBooks. Get 50% off for 3 months.
We don't
easily add on solutions as your needs grow.
We don't
accounting software, payroll.
Who's the Anunoby player?
Pay me double.
You've got $21 million in non-guaranteed contracts. One of those players is Jericho Sims. Okay, that gets you to about $149 million. You add another $18 million for Anunoby. Okay, that gets you to 167. You bring back Hartenstein. Now you're at 180. Now all of a sudden you're like right at that second apron team, and that takes into account the Fournier number or a replacement for Evan Fournier at that $20 million salary here. So that's where, like, yes, you can go out and maybe get a player that can help you right now, but then you have his money on your books for next season. Like, the perfect guy to go out and get is Bruce Brown, right?
And that's what they're all stuck on now is Bruce Brown. He's gonna break down like why? Because of the money. Bruce Brown is on a team option next year. It'll be tough because I guess he didn't know about Herb Jones being available at the time of this video, but Herb Jones is now a guy that fits your system with Tom Thibodeau, like I've been explaining all video long. But he'll break down why Bruce Brown is the perfect player next.
Like, if you want another guard on this team who can play point guard for you, can shoot the ball. I know you've got an abundant, you've got Grimes and you've got DiVincenzo and certainly with Brunson on this roster. Bruce Brown is the perfect guy for Knicks fans to go out and get because he's got a team option for next year. So basically you can decline the team option and maybe you sign for a lower number. But that's kind of where New York is standing here, where they've got everything at their disposal. They've got the draft assets. They got the Fournier contract. Now you have to make a decision. Do I want to go out and make a deal and take back money that's going to extend next year And then I'm going to be a luxury tax. I might be an apron team. I might be a second apron team. And all these restrictions now start to come their way. They've got, they've got a couple trade exceptions in their bag as far as where you look at it. They've got a 6.8. They've got a 5.2. They still have all their cash to send or receive in a deal. They're $6 million below the tax, $10.8 million below the first apron. If you're wondering why there's not more of a discrepancy there, is because bonuses count towards the apron. Anunoby, Malachi Flynn, and Precious Achiuwa cannot be aggregated, so you're not trading Anunoby, but you cannot combine Flynn and Achiuwa in a deal. Josh Hart cannot be traded because he was extended a 6-month restriction. Brunson, Hartenstein, and Julius Randle all have trade bonuses. Randle's is a whopper, $12.6 million. We went through all their draft equities. They've got 11 seconds still available. So as you could see, when you add in all their draft picks and where their contracts are, they're primed to make a deal, but it comes down to how much are they willing to, take back money long-term. Now, we always put trades we would like to see. Okay. Some are big, some are small. And I'm sure Knicks fans are not going to like this. I'm sure Stephen A. Smith is not going to like this, but I just kept it simple. Listen, two different ways, two different things, two separate ones as far as where we're looking at here. Fournier in 2 seconds to Utah for Kelly Olynyk. I don't know if Utah would do that. Gives you a stretch big guy that can make shots, protection behind Randall. Who knows when Mitchell Robinson's going to come back here? Okay, that's simple, right? Or Fournier.
Oh, thanks, Master. That's the key. Why the hell do we want? Why would we want insurance for Mitchell Robinson? Right? That's why I wanted to go after Mark Williams over there on the Hornets. But Mark Williams is considered untouchable now. The Hornets just considered Mark Williams untouchable, along with LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller. Brandon Miller shooting out of his mind this year. He's a great rookie, and what he's talking about him underrated, partially because he's on the Hornets. We're talking about Terry Rozier from the Hornets, and for me, it's Mark Williams. Throw something at him. He's hurt though. His back is messed up. He's been having a setback over there, but that's what Bobby Marks is speaking to. And
in 2 seconds, okay. Let's say the Brooklyn second and your own Brooklyn second in 25, your own second in 27 to Toronto for Bruce Brown. I don't think it would cost you a first if Toronto makes Bruce Brown available. And if it does, then you can maybe put that Detroit or Wizards pick, or maybe you put your own pick in there that's maybe top 18 protected this year here. So it's not sexy because there's no, as I said, high level. Donovan Mitchell is not available out there. Karl Anthony Towns is not available out there. But those are more of the simple trades because it fits the timeline as far as where this roster is going here. But all in all, that is the Knicks trade guide video. We've got the article coming out next week. I'm actually going to go on Knicks Film School.
Shout out to Knicks Film School. Shout out to Bobby Marks for breaking that down.